I found the room through a handwritten notice taped crookedly to a coffee shop bulletin board. Room available. Quiet building. No parties. No questions. Below it was a phone number written in thick blue ink, pressed so hard it tore the paper. I should have walked away. But rent in the city had climbed past what my paycheck could survive, and desperation dulls instincts faster than alcohol. When I called, a woman answered on the second ring. "Is this about the room?" she asked before I spoke. Her voice sounded tired, not old, just worn thin. "Yes," I said. "I'm Evan." There was a pause, then, "You can see it tonight. Bring ID." The call ended before I could ask anything else. The building sat at the far edge of town, where streetlights became suggestions instead of promises. It was a narrow brick structure wedged between an abandoned laundromat and a pawn shop with boarded windows. The sign above the entrance read, Caldwell Apartments, though several letters were missing, leaving it to read Caldwell Apartments. Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of dust and old paper. Not mold, not rot, just forgotten air. Apartment 3B was at the end of the hall. When I knocked, the door opened immediately. The woman from the phone stood there, her hair pulled into a low bun, glasses perched on her nose. "I'm Mara," she said. "You're on time." She stepped aside without waiting for a response. The apartment was larger than I expected, clean but minimally furnished. Beige walls, brown carpet, a couch that looked like it had been vacuumed too often, as if dirt wasn't the enemy, memory was. "There are 3 rooms," Mara said, walking ahead of me. "Yours would be the smaller one." "3?" I asked. "You said roommates, plural?" She hesitated for half a second too long. "Yes," she said. "One other." We passed a closed door at the end of the hall. "That's Liam's," she added quickly. The name settled wrong in my chest for no reason I could explain. My room was simple. Bed frame, desk, closet, window facing an alley. "Rent's cheap because we keep things quiet," Mara said. "No guests overnight, no noise after 10. And," she turned to face me, "no entering rooms that aren't yours." "That's reasonable," I said. Her eyes lingered on mine, searching for something. "If that's a problem," she said, "this won't work." I shook my head. "No, it's fine." She nodded, relieved too quickly. "Good. Then you can move in tomorrow." The first week passed without incident. Mara worked from home, typing constantly in the living room. She barely spoke unless necessary, and when she did, her sentences were short, clipped, like she rationed words. Liam, however, I didn't meet. I heard him. Soft footsteps in the hallway at night. A door opening, closing. The faint sound of water running at odd hours. Once, at 3:12 a.m., I heard someone whispering from the kitchen. Not talking, whispering. When I checked the next morning, Mara was already at her desk. "Does Liam work nights?" I asked casually. She froze, then resumed typing. "He keeps his own schedule," she said. "Please don't worry about it." I tried not to. The rules were printed and taped to the fridge. Clean your own dishes. Replace what you use. Lock the door at night. Do not enter Liam's room. The 4th rule was underlined twice. I laughed it off at first. Everyone has quirks. But slowly, things began to feel off. Food I hadn't touched went missing. My shoes moved places overnight. Once, I woke to find my bedroom door unlocked when I always locked it before sleeping. When I mentioned it to Mara, she stared at me with a tight smile. "Old buildings shift," she said. "Doors move." That didn't explain the fingerprints. One evening I came home early. Mara wasn't at her desk. The apartment was silent. As I passed the hallway, I noticed Liam's door was slightly open. Just a crack. I stopped. Rule number 4 echoed in my head. Still, curiosity tugged at me. The air near the door felt colder, like the fridge had been left open somewhere inside. I leaned closer. Inside, the room was dark and empty. No bed, no furniture, no belongings. Just a bare room with scuffed floors and deep scratches along the walls, as if something heavy had been dragged repeatedly from one end to the other. I stepped back, heart pounding. Behind me, a voice whispered, "He doesn't like when people look." I spun around. Mara stood at the end of the hall, eyes wide. I thought no one was home," I stammered. She closed Liam's door gently. "He's sensitive," she said. "Please respect that." That night, I dreamed footsteps circling my bed. The dreams didn't stop. Every night, someone stood just outside my door, breathing slowly, patiently. I began recording audio while I slept. On the third night, I caught something. At 2:47 a.m., my door clicked open. Soft footsteps entered. A long silence. Then a voice whispered my name. Not Mara's voice. Not anyone I recognized. The recording ended with a soft laugh. I confronted Mara the next morning. She listened to the audio, her face draining of color. "You weren't supposed to hear that yet," she whispered. "Yet," I snapped. "Who is Liam?" She swallowed. "He's part of the lease." That was when I decided to leave. I packed my bags that afternoon. As I dragged my suitcase toward the door, I noticed the lease agreement taped beside the coat rack. I hadn't read it closely before. Now, I did. Occupancy agreement. 3 residents. Term, indefinite. Early termination clause, prohibited. At the bottom, 3 signatures. Mara's, a name scribbled in faded ink, and mine. I didn't remember signing that last page. The front door wouldn't open. The lock turned freely, but the door refused to budge, as if sealed shut. Behind me, footsteps approached. Slow, careful. Mara's voice trembled. "I tried to warn you," she said. "He doesn't like being abandoned." The hallway lights flickered. Liam's door creaked open. Something stepped out. It didn't look like a person. Not fully. Its shape shifted, edges blurring, like it couldn't decide how to exist. Its face, if it had one, reflected pieces of the apartment as if reality bent around it. I couldn't move. "He needs balance," Mara whispered. 3 residents, always 3. The thing tilted its head and smiled with my mouth. When I woke up, I was sitting at the kitchen table. Mara poured coffee across from me. "You'll adjust," she said softly. "Everyone does." I tried to scream. Nothing came out. My reflection in the microwave door flickered, then steadied. The lease on the fridge now read, "Room available. Quiet building. No parties. No questions." Below it, 3 names. One of them was mine. And somewhere down the hall, a door creaked open, waiting for the next roommate. When I moved into room 417, I thought the worst thing about it would be the smell. Old hostels always smell the same. Cleaned too many times with cheap disinfectant, but never enough to erase what lived there before. Sweat, damp mattresses, loneliness baked into the walls. The listing said shared accommodation, 1 roommate, male preferred. I didn't care. I needed cheap. I needed fast. The building used to be a student dorm before the college shut down. Now it was a halfway house for people like me. Temporary lives, temporary plans. The caretaker, Mr. Harlan, handed me a single metal key. "Roommate's already inside," he said. "Name's Noah." I nodded, dragged my suitcase down the dim hallway, and found room 417. The door was unlocked. Noah sat on the lower bunk, lacing his shoes. He looked normal. Too normal. Mid-20s, clean haircut, thin smile. His side of the room was organized to an unsettling degree. Clothes folded, bags zipped, shoes aligned perfectly beneath the bed. "You must be Daniel," he said, standing up immediately. "Yeah. You're Noah?" He nodded. "Top bunk's yours." I paused. "You sure?" He smiled again. "I don't use the top bunk." Something about the way he said it felt rehearsed. The room itself was narrow. 2 metal bunk beds bolted to opposite walls, a shared desk in the middle, one window sealed shut. As I unpacked, I noticed something odd. The top bunk mattress looked untouched. No wrinkles, no dust, like no one had ever slept there. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. No traffic sounds, no distant shouting, just the hum of the building settling into itself. I climbed onto the top bunk and tried to sleep. Below me, Noah lay flat on his back, eyes open. "You sleep like that?" I asked. "Yes," he said. Minutes passed. Then he spoke again, softly. "Do you ever wake up before you fall asleep?" "What?" "That moment," he continued, "when your body's still awake, but your thoughts aren't yours yet." I swallowed. "Sometimes." "Good," he said. "Then you'll notice sooner." I didn't ask what he meant. Over the next few days, patterns emerged. Noah never left the room before sunrise. He never ate food from the cafeteria. He never climbed onto the top bunk. At night, he sat on the edge of his bed, facing the wall, perfectly still. Once, around 2 a.m., I woke to a faint tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. I leaned over the railing. Noah was tapping the wall with one finger. Slowly, carefully. "What are you doing?" I whispered. He stopped instantly. "Listening," he replied. "To what?" He turned his head slightly, not enough for me to see his face, to see if it's listening back. I didn't sleep after that. The first missing thing was my phone charger. I searched the room while Noah watched silently. "You moved it?" I asked. "No." I found it later, neatly coiled, placed under my pillow. The second thing was my wallet. It reappeared inside my backpack, positioned exactly the way I always kept it. Perfect. Too perfect. The third thing didn't come back. My alarm clock. Instead, I started waking up at exactly 3:33 a.m. every night. No alarm, no sound, just my eyes snapping open. And Noah standing beside my bunk. The caretaker avoided eye contact when I asked about Noah. "How long has he been here?" I said. Mr. Harlan's jaw tightened. "He's been in 417 a while. Before me." "Yes."
And before the guy before me. A pause. "Yes." I felt a chill. "How long is a while?" He slid a paper toward me. A faded incident report. Occupancy history. Room 417. Resident turnover.
High. Roommate retention. 0. I looked up. Mr. Harlan finally met my eyes. "Don't sleep on the top bunk," he said quietly. That night, I stayed awake. I pretended to sleep. At 3:33 a.m., Noah stood up. Slowly, no sound. He placed his hands on the ladder of my bunk. Didn't climb, just held it. His fingers tightened, knuckles whitening. Then he whispered, "You're lighter than the last one." I couldn't breathe. "You should switch bunks," he continued. "The top isn't safe." My heart hammered. "I told you," he said gently. "I never take the top bunk." I decided to leave. I packed my bag in the morning while Noah watched me from his bed. "You won't like the next one," he said. "The next what?" "Roommate." I ignored him and headed for the door. It wouldn't open. I rattled the handle. Locked. From the outside. "Noah," I said, trying to stay calm. "Open the door." He stood up. "You signed in," he said. "That's enough." He walked to the top bunk, touched the mattress. For the first time, it sank under his hand. "You see," he said, almost fondly, "someone has to stay awake." The lights flickered. The room felt heavier, as if the air itself was pressing downward. I don't remember climbing down. I don't remember screaming. I remember lying on the lower bunk, staring at the ceiling, unable to move. Noah climbed onto the top bunk. The metal groaned under his weight. Don't worry, he said softly. I'll watch now. Something crawled across the ceiling. Not a shadow, not a shape. Pressure, breathing, waiting. And for the first time since I woke up, no one closed his eyes. In the morning, between Mr. Hall, staring straight ahead. I didn't blink. I didn't speak. The top bunk was empty, untouched, just like always. The listing went up again that afternoon. Room available, shared, one roommate, top bunk only. And somewhere in the building, something stayed awake, because someone always has to.